Guys, listen. This is
a big day.
A big day. We're gonna announce a few things coming up. Potential of a Brennan face cam show. Ooh. So we'll see. We'll
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I know you guys have been waiting for it to see just who this Brennan guy is.
Yeah.
What kind of weird face does he have? Who knows? He could have any sort of face.
He could look.
Draw a picture of what you guys think Brennan looks like and send it to brennancoyle@gmail.com.
Email us. Email us your Brennan pics.
We'll put them up on the next video.
You never know who Brennan is. He could be your dad.
He could be any one of us.
He could be anyone. Brennan could literally be anyone.
He sees you when you're sleeping.
He's turned into Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Brennan.
Who do you think Santa Claus is on the off season? Brennan. And helps out filming with us.
Yeah. I feel like Santa Claus in the off season. What do you think he does? In my opinion, I think he's like a bear. So he kind of hibernates during the off season for a little bit. Then he wakes up and he's got to kind of like get back to being big and jolly. So he eats a lot. He might go on vacation. He probably hits up Hawaii.
Yeah.
And then...
You think he's a warm weather fan?
Absolutely. And then he comes back to the north and he's like, all right, I'm going to do it again.
Well, that's interesting to me because I feel like for a man with a stature like Santa Claus, he would be able to set up shop anywhere.
Okay, yeah.
So, I mean, it's either maybe he is a summer kind of hot weather guy and he just decides to like grind it out in the coldest place on earth just so it makes vacationing that much better.
Yeah, yeah.
Or maybe he just loves that cold air, that penguin breath.
Penguin breath. Mm-hmm. He might. Who knows, dude? He might love it up there. But although I don't believe, are there penguins in the north?
Nobody actually knows for sure.
I'm pretty sure we know.
No, I mean, science has yet to crack that code, that Da Vinci code.
Okay. When in Rome.
Anyways, guys, today is a big day. You might see Brennan. Might figure out if penguins exist in the North Pole. All these things and more. But first, we are going to be talking about grace. Grace. Authority.
Mm-hmm.
The law of the Old Testament. The fulfillment of the law.
Yeah.
What's it mean to be a Christian and walk the line of both in each hand?
Yeah.
I guess let's start out from rock bottom.
Okay.
Let's pretend nobody knows anything about what we're talking about. What is the law? What is the law in the Old Testament? What does that mean? Why do we have it?
Okay. Oh, I thought you were gonna explain it.
I will. Okay.
Okay. That's what
I felt like I was talking a lot.
No, it's fine.
I always try and measure how long I'm talking because I don't want it to feel like I'm taking over.
No.
So the law was really cool. I did. Basically, you have the people of Israel coming out of Egypt. Moses just splits the Red Sea. Everyone dies. It's awesome. Not the Israelite. Everybody, the mean people die, I think. I wonder if they died. They got swept away.
Yeah.
And then you have these nomadic people that they are trying to create a nation for themselves. And God sees them and they are his people. And so he inspires Moses. He tells Moses he gives him this set of laws. Mm-hmm. Basically, I think it's like 613 laws.
Yeah.
And basically, they're primarily how to be a nation.
Yeah.
How do you do this?
Mm-hmm.
When your neighbor does this, how do you treat them?
Yeah.
What do you do? And then some of those laws were the 10 Commandments. And they're separate from like nation, how like policing and governmental stuff. these laws are now like, this is how you, as God's people, show yourself as God's people. This is how you set yourself apart spiritually, and this is how you act.
Yeah.
And most of us know the 10 Commandments.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jesus comes along.
Yep.
And everyone's real mad at him.
Real mad. Real
People
mad.
either really, really like him or don't like him at all.
That's very true.
And he's very, he's causing problems for the people who really, really like the law.
Yeah.
Because he realizes, and I think a lot of the early Christians also realize this, that's like, basically, history lesson, what happened was people started making up new laws.
Yeah.
Just to make sure they didn't break the original laws.
Yeah.
They're like, you can't do this, so I'm going to say we can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
Just in case we do this, we'll never get to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus is like, you guys missed the point of what I was trying to do with all this. And he starts ruffling some feathers.
Feathers were ruffled. Jimmy's were rustled.
Jimmy's were rustled, to say the least.
Oh, that meme! I haven't seen that meme in so long.
I don't even know what meme this is. Let's put the meme right here.
Yep.
Is it appropriate?
Yeah, it's
We'll
a
put
little,
the meme right
it's
here.
Like
it's gonna be
gorilla.
right in between my hands. I'm gonna be holding it like a scroll.
Brennan, you got that?
I'm gonna be holding it like a scroll.
Yeah.
The meme.
The Jimmy's were rustled meme. I don't know if you know it. I'll have to show him.
Okay.
Jesus was wrestling some Jimmys.
He was wrestling some Jimmys, and from that, from Jesus' message that he went on the cross, that he died for our sins, the sins that were created from breaking this law.
Yeah.
We get grace.
Yes.
And then you get Peter.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, James. You get James in the New Testament talking about, well, basically faith without works is dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that doesn't connect yet, but in my head it does connect. Of like,
it's getting, yes. Yeah.
Of like, there's a world as a Christian right now where we have to still set ourselves apart.
Yeah.
We still have to follow these commandments.
Mm-hmm.
We have to do it with wisdom, because some of these laws were for the people of Israel to establish themselves as a nation.
Yeah.
And so we probably don't have to worry about if my calf falls in a pit on the Sabbath. I'm not, whatever. But we have to do that, and then we also have to live in the authority that comes from having grace on our lives and being okay with, like, we're gonna screw up, and Jesus already covered that for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anybody who knows a lot about theology probably just got real mad at that last 5 minutes. So I'm sorry. But
this is just an overview.
This is an overview.
Yeah.
Go to SNT if you want more of that.
This is an overview.
This is for the cool kids.
this is for the cool kids. Yeah.
So so tell me, what's your experience with grace?
Oh, yeah.
The law, authority, all
that. Yeah. So there's, I think one thing for me about grace was I grew up in like a different church denomination that didn't have a high value on it in a lot of ways, I don't think. So part of my experience growing up was you do the right thing and you just like make sure you do the right thing. There's like this, like the expectation of perfection was still on me.
Right.
And so like growing up, I did not have a high value for grace. And I think it's even something that I struggle with now. And where I would say that if I mess up or get mad or get upset or, whatever, sin, I always find myself beating myself up because I haven't had a high, I haven't had high, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like you haven't maybe fully understood or accepted
Yeah, and I don't think that I had fully understood or fully accepted grace. And I think in my own opinion, and I don't know that this is for everyone, but for a lot of people that I've talked to, growing up in the church, I think like for people who grew up in the church from a young age, grace is always something that's hard to accept or understand. In the fact that you grow up learning like right from wrong, yes from no. And then you still have this like a lot of people still have this stage where they like are still trying to rebel or whatever. And so like you're learning right from wrong. Like we're taught, don't do this, don't do this, do this. And like I think in our generation it felt like it got missed I wish I'd been taught instead of like, don't, you shouldn't be partying, you shouldn't be drinking, you shouldn't be doing these things. I wish I would have been taught that you should just be radically in love with Jesus.
Or, I mean, it goes back, I think we've said this in a previous episode of like, it's less about, Jacob, drinking is bad.
Yeah.
Or partying is bad or whatever. Like,
yes, yeah.
That's bad for you. It's less about that and more about, Jacob, Jesus has something way better than partying for you.
Totally.
And like I promise, it's like the tangibleness of it is realer than partying.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, just at least from some people that I knew who grew up in sort of the same environment that I did, that it's always like it's kind of like this common, I don't know, thing between us. But I've talked to people who I knew, like my dad. My dad didn't like come to know Jesus until he was in his mid-20s. And my dad like grew up in just in a different place and was completely different before he came to know Jesus. And so whenever my dad talks about grace, whenever he talks about like the grace that God has for us, I don't know that there's ever been times that I haven't seen him just like almost cry.
Right.
Because he goes, oh, I know what I have been forgiven from in this, and there's none of this like constant back and forth that where you grow up and you know what I mean? Like I feel like we grow up in the church and you're just like, oh, I'm here and I'm taught not to do this and not to do this, but then like you're also taught grace, but you're like, I don't really understand it.
Yeah, and that seems like because I feel if I were to like align myself with one of those stories, it would probably be closer to your father's of being like, and I've talked with people that it's like, oh, grace is easy.
Yeah.
It's the law. It's this like following and the practices, I should call them. That's harder because, and for me, it's like I came into Christendom and was like, grace is cool. Hey kids, grace is cool.
Stay in
that on a t-shirt.
Stay in school. Grace is cool.
Yeah. I was like, grace is cool. What? Now you can't just...
Sorry. This is a little segue.
Okay.
That's the t-shirt that the image bearer wears.
Oh, goodness. I love this so much. Okay.
Yes.
No, that's very, very good.
Yes.
Very powerful. I love it. Yes. Back to this.
Yes.
Grace is really cool. It's the law that like what I'm falling in love with now is like, oh, it's refreshing to actually have like a structure to how I'm supposed to live.
Yeah.
And to some degree I've swung to like, Katie, my fiance, always talks about like, she's said to me before, like, oh, you're really black and white with this. I'm like, yeah, like I am. Like, there's a right way of doing things. And I think to some degree I've swung because like sinner saved by grace. And now I've studied the Bible and I'm like, oh no, there's a right and wrong way of doing things. And everyone should be doing it the right way because it says right here. It's like, and there's a part of me that gets comfort out of that. It's like, oh, the world makes sense a little bit more now.
Yeah.
And I've like now struggled and have abandoned grace for giving it for other people, even though I've received so much of it.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that about kids that grow up in the church, though.
And again, sample sizes, whatever, and not every person's got the same story.
But I think it's important of like, we learn a lot of what's wrong.
Oh,
I've taught Sunday school, and there's nothing against our Sunday school is way better.
Yeah.
But like when we only teach kids, oh, and this person did the wrong thing. It's like we enforce this belief that there's a right way of living and a wrong way of living. Yeah. And that is right. There is a right way of living and a wrong way.
Totally.
But then we have just 1 week on grace, and then we get back to the... It's like, we should have equal... These things are counterparts of each other.
Yeah, you have to hold them in the same, like, intention, almost, if that makes sense. Because there's, like, the hyper grace where it's just like, oh, I'm forgiven, I'll just do whatever I want. And it's like, no, that's not what you're supposed to do. But then there's the law part where you're just like, everything's black and white. We do this, and then like you mess up, and then there's never grace for anything. There's never grace for you. There's never grace for other people. It's because it's so black and white, and it's like But I mean, I think really where it comes down to also with this idea of not understanding grace and not fully receiving it is also like an identity statement too.
Right.
That at the end of the day, go, well, yeah, you don't understand grace because you weren't taught identity. You were just taught what to do and what not to do. You were never, you don't understand grace because you don't really realize who or what God sees you for or how He sees you.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, and it's a two-way street too.
Yeah.
Because like you don't understand how God sees you, but you don't actually fully see God the way He is.
Yes. Yeah. So you like miss out on that entire aspect of faith, and it makes I know so many people who I went to church with that don't believe anymore, and there's no surprise to me why we have so many people who call themselves prodigals. Because we grew up in an age that goes, we'll just teach them right from wrong. There's no identity building. There was none, at least in my opinion, in my personal walk, there wasn't this like identity building. There wasn't this stuff, and this all had to come like later, and
and I've been like, so in my head, as you were talking, I was like, oh, this actually goes really well with, so we're gearing up for this Colossians series, and so I've been really diving into Colossians, and and then along with that, Ephesians and Philemon and things like that, where they're all kind of centered around the same chunk of land and belief, and in that is this thing, this Gnosticism of like, you have these two sides of the spectrum. You have this like Jewish legalism in Christianity, and then you have these this other side of Christians plus crystals, Christians plus like cult practices, Christians plus like, and on both sides, like the common thread, like even though they're so like opposite from each other, at its root, both sides is saying, I want Jesus plus fill in the blank.
Yeah.
I'm good with Jesus can save me if it's Jesus plus following the laws.
Yeah.
Jesus can save me if it's Jesus plus me having pleasure in my life and getting to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
And it's like both sides we add to the identity of Jesus. And the problem is that we're not actually adding to our understanding of Jesus. We're muddying the waters and making it less clear.
Yeah.
It's like the more we add to Jesus, the less Jesus we actually get.
Yeah.
We, like water him down. And
yeah.
we end up not getting any at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's funny because I think these, like, if I were to have a stereotype of each different, like, saved by grace, like, I can't do any wrong, and then person who's, like, legalistic, everything, probably has a shame complex, but they would be, like, fighting, but it's like, oh, you guys actually have the same narrative in your head, just wrapped around two different things.
Yeah. One of you, I like you're trying to earn it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to earn it. You want to.
The other one has just no practices or no like fundamental like.
Yeah. One of them says, like, what? So like always, whenever I had someone say this to me, like, Jacob, when you continue trying to earn your faith, you almost say, or earn your salvation, you almost go, Jesus, what you did wasn't enough.
It wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Which now segues us into James. Faith without works is like, that's basically the narrative of like, yeah, you believe, but now there's the grace side of like, you believe, but are you actually putting in any work?
Yeah.
Because if your life practices aren't changed, then you haven't fully accepted the identity. Jesus, you haven't fully accepted the grace, you haven't fully accepted the salvation. But if your life is exclusively works,
you still
you still haven't fully accepted identity, grace, and all that. So it's like it's this back and forth.
It's like it's an identity crisis.
Ooh, an identity Christus. It's an identity Christus.
Oh,
it's the name of my new album.
Nice.
It's mostly DC Talk covers.
It's very good. You should check it out on my SoundCloud. And just throw the link up.
So how do you? Okay, so let's try and wrap a bow around this.
Yeah.
How do you walk with both of those things? How like practically? What do I do? I find myself in one of these camps. I identify with one.
How do you walk it out? Yeah.
Walk it out. Is that a song
It
still?
is a song. Well, I mean...
Do people still...
Oh, it's still a song. It never doesn't become a song, right? Like, I mean, it's still a song. Now, whether people listen to it anymore, I don't know. Maybe people our age that get married, they have it in their wedding, dances. The DJ probably plays that. I'm pretty sure it's probably so popular in weddings.
Okay.
That would probably be the only place that I would really put any money on it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna say we're gonna play it right now because it's probably a few swears.
Yeah. Probably some copyright stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe. But how do you walk out this idea of, I guess I'll speak to the people who try and earn their faith. One, I think you have to understand who God is, the way He sees you, and you have to understand like that whenever He says it's done, that it's actually done. And I don't know. I wish that I could tell them, it's just this 3 simple steps to then be completely fixed. But I think it's just a day in and a day out of going, no, what you did was enough. I don't have to earn this, but what I am is I'm a son.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm a daughter. And learning how to live out of that is going to be probably one of the biggest things that gets you into, like, back on track. Is like learning that, well, I'm a son or a daughter.
And maybe it's worth, like, because that's, again, wrapped in identity, both identity of God and identity of you. And it's like, maybe it's worth, honestly, for anybody, but take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I would say take an hour, but take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Start with 10 minutes. And literally, like, sit in silence, ask God, just pretend he's in the room with you. Just be like, how do you see me?
Yeah.
And write down a list of adjectives.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And you may feel like you're just writing a list of adjectives that you'd like to be one day, or whatever. But I promise, like, just do it, and you can throw away the list afterwards. I don't care if you don't have to save it and put it on your board, but it would be good. But maybe it's just about, like, hey, God, I need you to remind me how you see me today, because I feel like muddy water right now. And I'm kind of all over the place. Yeah. And so I'd say for the people who are, like, you know, the law-abiding citizen, who was in that movie?
Gerard Butler.
For all the Gerard Butlers out there.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
For all the Gerard Butlers, all the law people, oh, sorry. You talked about law people.
Yeah, but
I was going to talk about grace people. We can edit that out in post. To all the... I can't think of any cool grace movies.
To all the angels in the outfield.
all those angels in the outfield. To all those Gracies. I would just say that it's like your life is more than just you experiencing God. And I think that's a hurdle that I've had to leap over, of being like, you walk into faith and you find God and he's like, I accept you wholeheartedly, like, you're amazing, I love you. And you're like, oh, I feel amazing. I feel like I'm loved, I feel like I'm seen, and this is awesome. And then God starts, like, poking at your heart of being like, okay, cool. That's not the extent of our relationship. Yeah. The extent is now, like, I want you to bring other people to God and to start teaching about me, and to start evangelizing for me, to start, like, bringing other people around, like, and with that, it's like, okay. And he's like, I'm now going to give you the necessary tools that it's required for you to do this. And part of that is reading the Bible. Part of that is having a system of prayer, like a structure in your life. Part of that is getting around discipleship relationships.
I think that you could almost say the same thing to each side. That in this, you need to figure out your identity, because it's an identity crisis. And who are you? You're a son and you're a daughter. And to the law, you go, you're a son and a daughter, and that means that you don't have to do anything. Like, that you have already, it's done, it's finished, it's bought. And you say to the grace, you go, but you are a son and a daughter. And you have, like, now you're in the family, and the family does what? They do the father's, they do the dishes. They do the dishes, they do the father's will. Right. And, like, there's this point, it's so, like, understanding that different dichotomy. So, like, yeah, you don't have to earn your dad's love, but you do have to do the things that he's asking you to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, totally. I was just thinking we should call this episode I Fought the Law and Grace Won.
Yes! Brennan, did you hear that?
Okay.
I fought the law and grace won.
Oh man, that's the worst.
It's so good.
So like 90s Christian poster.
I'm you know what I'm actually for? The rest of these titles being literally Christianized movie titles.
Yes.
Just law-abiding citizen and just whatever. The rest of it, that's what I'm about. People are just like, what are these?
I'm gonna only think of puns now.
Yeah, no, for real.
For the rest of the week, I'm gonna do zero work.
Puns only. Oh, it's good. I think this is a good conversation to have, though. You know,
yeah,
two different sides of the coin, but at the same time, it's like two extremes. Where's the right? It's in the middle, where you're, fully known, fully loved, but you are doing the will of the Father.
And I get a little bit upset because I'm like, I want each of these conversations to have some new cool thing that's like, oh man, we really boiled this one down to a new, like, profound thing. And it's like, honestly, all of these just come down to like, do you actually know, like, the Imago Dei? And like, do you actually know the image bearer that's inside you roaring around? Or is it just hibernating?
Roaring around in his Grace is Cool t-shirt.
Like, do you actually know your identity is really like what all these come down to? Do you know that you know who God actually is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you were really in love with God, you would do some work. And if you're really in love with God, you'd accept his salvation.
Yeah. And again, both of these take time. Yeah. But there's, like, it's called sanctification for a reason.
Ugh. Yeah, that refinement.
Yeah.
It's not.
So cool. It's not one of these where you just gotta. I know.
Figure it out.
Yeah, I know. I struggled so long to be like, oh, you just don't get it, and it's like, no, I didn't get it, but he's teaching me. You know, he's like revealing it. So.
Right.
Yeah. Well, cool. It's a good talk, man.
Yeah.
So don't forget to like and subscribe.
Don't forget to like and guys.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Remember,
I feel like a lot of you guys have forgotten to like and subscribe.
We've got the numbers. We know what's going on.
I know.
Yeah.
I have your number too, and I know which ones of you I've been watching this but not liking and subscribing. And frankly, that's messed up. That's messed up. Don't you dare exit out of this without liking and subscribing. Alright? Don't for 1 second think that you can watch this without liking and or subscribing.
Remember, Brennan's face reveal soon.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Let's get ready for Brennan's face. Oh, is it today?
No, it's not today. But soon.
Soon. Keep on watching. Keep on subscribing. Do you subscribe more than once? I don't watch any of these.
Just once. Just once. Bye, guys.
Bye.